Just how have you been preparing yourself and the team for it?
2 years. I mean, it's 2 years in advance that you start talking about them, where you're going to go, picking the locations, hoping there's not record heat waves and wild forest fires and closing the Acropolis yesterday. But it's a lot of prep going into it. I've been working on this practice schedule for 3 months. You know, tomorrow's will be a little harder to make because I have a few hours, but it's an unbelievable opportunity that I'm so glad survived COVID. I was really worried. I think we all were worried that once COVID was here and they went away, that it would be an opportunity for people just to say, well, we're not doing them anymore. But when you've been on them and you talk back to the kids 10 years later and that's what they're still talking about, you understand the impact of them. So we're very fortunate that we're able to do it, rules-wise, and then the support of the school to do it. Not all schools get to do this. We know we're lucky. We appreciate the people that are helping support us to go over there, because it is impactful for the rest of their lives. Some kids had to look up where we were going. That was good. You know, I think Mac leaned over to ask Sam if Italy was in Europe. So those are the type of things that you share with these kids. When we said Croatia, initially there was a little bit of pushback, like, where's that? What's that all about? You know, people like me grew up, it was war-torn during when I was growing up, so you didn't realize there were beautiful beaches and unbelievable scenery. But I think when I told our kids it's where they shot Game of Thrones, there was an immediate perk up. What scenes? What? So some of them are excited to see King's Landing. And I told them as long as they didn't call it King's Landing, we'd be okay. This country's been here for a long, long time. It's not Game of Thrones. It wasn't built for the Game of Thrones to be shot at. So they're really cool experiences on these. The games are about 7 or 8 down the list of priority. It's these practices, it's the experience, it's the being together for 21 straight days, starting today. And the timing of y'all were mentioning some freshmen coming in with a lot of returners. So very valuable. I'm thankful that the NCAA brought them back and that we have a school that supports it.
And then with getting ready for the trip, you've kind of designed these practices to be a way to at the same time help, it seems like high school coaches just really influence them. I guess being a former high school coach and having this platform now to be able to do things like that, just how much does that mean to you?
I remember very vividly August 1 and late July rolling around and being at the school with nothing to do. We couldn't work out our kids. We couldn't have them on campus, but I was, quote, at work and was just talking with a few of my friends. I said, well, we're going to open it up to everybody. We just talked to a coach that just flew in from Denver. There's a group coming from Minnesota, one from California, one from New York, a bunch from the surrounding states, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Missouri, Kansas, Mississippi. I think we're up to 15 states over the next 10 days. At some point in time, one staff is staying here the whole time. And we're doing an hour clinic before and an hour clinic after, along with the 2-hour practice. So it was replacing those old school day camps when we used to go to clinics and you literally worked and you talked about basketball. You didn't just hang out. And so it's going to be fun for a lot of different reasons. I'm excited about that, but really excited to see our kids. We've been working out all summer. Everybody's been here at some point in time, except Christina, who still won't be here today. But it'll be the first time that we've been everybody here, in a 2-hour setting. And we kicked it off this morning at the house in the same room where we watched the selection show last year. Told as many of them that were here last year sat in the same spot, so you remember how we felt when we missed it by one game or one play, or however deep you want to break it down. And we've been, feeling that since then. And I think you can see a sense of excitement about the kids to get out and start moving forward, because that was really kind of the last time we were in that room together.
First thing for me is just how much is this going to play into your preseason prep? I know you mentioned, the start and kind of toy with that. How will this affect the start time and where you start your preseason camp?
I'm going to answer you the exact same way Mac and Sam came up to my office the other day, because they've been talking in the locker room. You're like, what's this going to be? What are we doing? What are we doing? So I brought Mac and Sam up and I said, listen, explain it this way. We have to play a game in 13 days against an opponent. So we need a man offense, a zone offense, an inbounds play. We need the basics of our defense. So we've got these 10 days we need to prepare, for a game. There's not going to be a scouting report. There's not going to be film on these, opponents. We're not doing that all out. So let's focus, kind of an inch wide and a mile deep, but more so focus on how we're going to go about doing things. I think I've been very open that I felt like the environment that I created with our team last year wasn't the best that we've ever had in my 10 years. It was a hard year. The more I've talked to other coaches around the country, I was not the only one that felt that way. There were a lot of coaches that felt like it was a really hard year. However many months removed from COVID you want to say, the introduction of name, image, and likeness, the newness still of the transfer portal, it was all new for a lot of us. And I don't feel like the environment I've created was the best that I'd had in the 10 years. So I told them, in fact, I called it the worst. That's fair enough. I called it the worst. So they got the worst last year. They're due the best this year. So we're very, very focused on how we're going to do things as much as what we're doing. You'll see anybody that's watched this practice will see some very slight changes. We didn't miss the tournament by much, so I'm not in this drastic change mode. But I do think we're going to be very intentional and cognizant of some things and the ways that we do things these next 10 days. And I hope that carries over. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that we're putting some combinations together to see how they play together over there. It'd be ridiculous not to take advantage. We're trying to play 3 games while we're over there, so that gives us, an opportunity to play a lot of different combinations. We'll have Christina won't be able to participate with us over there because she's still competing with her national team in Spain. She will join us over there and come back with us, but she won't be able to participate. So we'll have 13 healthy bodies, and we'll rotate them in a lot of different ways. And we won't have a lot of information, but we also won't come back with none. We'll have some.
And the last thing for me is with the depth. This is going to be some depth that you're not really used to with this team, and potentially having 2 deep at every position, and kind of a changing of the guard between Mac and Sam carrying this program to the next level next year. What are you hoping that they gain from this jump start with this experience in these 10 games? A voice
on when to talk and how to talk to each other and how to talk to their teammates. And obviously we're counting on them to lead. There's no question about it. You got to have good followers, which I think we have. I think you just got to kind of change the perception a little bit of last year if you didn't play 32 minutes, maybe you felt like you weren't counted on. That number may be more like 28 this year. We are going to press. I've been talking to some friends throughout the summer. The last time I pressed was 1996, so there's been some changes in the game since then. I've got to talk to some people that have done it with some success. With our added depth, I think that'll allow us to get a few extra possessions that way, which will then in turn keep somebody from probably being able to effectively play 37 or 38 minutes. So those numbers will come down a little bit because of that, but then because of our depth. And this is, our last year with some COVID overlap. Obviously when we were recruiting Talia Scott, we didn't know that Mac was going to be here. When we were recruiting Jenna Lawrence, we didn't know for sure who all was going to be here. So, Carly Keats, all these freshmen, there's been some roster management things. We did not take anybody out of the transfer portal for that very reason. I loved our team. I had great conversations with everybody returning. And the ones that are here today were all very committed, so there was no reason for us to use the portal this year. I'm not against the portal. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just I trusted our kids. I sat in those kids' homes and told their parents we were going to develop them, and so that's why we did that. And as a result, I think our kids have had an extra understanding of they're really bought into us. We could have. I think there was only 3 other Power Five teams that did not take somebody out of the portal. Not to say that we won't take 10 next year. But this year it just doesn't lay out for us to have anybody. So the depth is there. I think the style of play, the way that we'll practice, will require a little more energy out of the kids, so probably a few less minutes for everybody, but that'll be okay. I think it'll impact our team in a positive way.
So Coach Richardson on the golf course the other day, is that someone you might ask about the press?
I watched him, and if I see him on the golf course, I will certainly talk to him, but I watched enough of their practices. I know what he did. I don't think I have the ability to stare like he did and get the guys to play as hard as he could. But yes, he is one that I would love to hear any conversations about. 'Cause I don't think anybody did it on this floor any better than they did.
Lauren Lindsay is really working hard. Is it a possibility that you could have like maybe a 9-player rotation this year? And if so, could she work into that?
Certainly can. She had a good summer. Everybody always, knows that I've in the past played 7 or 8. Again, that was just out where the line fell. I think it'd be difficult to predict right now, but I've gone on record with a few of my friends saying we'll have 10 kids that average 10 minutes or more, which we've never had probably. So who that ends up being, that's what we're going to practice between now and then for. And then it'll change as the year goes along. But she has worked really hard. She's accepted the role that she came in here with and continues to try to build on it. Be a good chance for her over there this summer. She's got a head start, She's got that sophomore look on her already, telling the freshmen where to go. It's always fun to see that transition when these sophomores start acting like they know everything and don't realize that they were at that same point last year.
Mike, what are you most excited for sightseeing-wise? Is there one specific thing on the itinerary you're really looking forward to?
There's a really cool court in Croatia that's up on top of a rooftop building that looks out over the water. If you ever follow Twitter, it's like one of their goals or the courts of the day or something. I want to see that, and I kind of want to see those Game of Thrones sites too. One of those I watched it. I want to walk those steps. But now I see where the first Olympics was at. Some of the stuff there in Greece. And seeing the kids' reaction. That's what I look for most on these trips, is watching the kids and, trying to see the excitement in them. I had to explain on our last trip with Alexis Tolfree, she was asking me what year something was built, and I said it was built in 60. And she said, which one? I said, what do you mean? She said, like 1960 or 1860 or 17? I said, no, 60. 0060, and it just, that dawning of moment on those kids that, wait, nothing in America is older than 250 years old, so some of these kids have never seen a building that's been there for thousands of years and got a lot of history, so I look forward to that. It's something different with each one of them. I'll try to come back with a memory. I just pulled out my memory trip from when we took our first team. So I try to write down when we get back or along the way things that I remember experiencing with them. So I was texting some of those kids, and it's amazing how much they remember about them.
When you start practicing so early in the year, you talked about minutes, but is there anything you do to make sure there's still stuff left in the tank for February and March?
We didn't do as much these last 8 weeks as we normally would. I told the team this morning at our breakfast, if I smell like bacon, I apologize. I cooked for a long time. During the summer, everything that we do is kind of individual. Their schedules are individual. They've got family vacations. They got things they need to do. They've got classes. They've got stuff they want to work on. We start today, everything's about the team. So you look at it different. That's kind of the switch, but you plan differently too. I didn't work them as hard this summer as you might, knowing that we've got these 10 days here, plus the 5 or 6 days that we'll play over there. And then when we come back, I'll give them an extra week to acclimate to class, because it's a pretty quick turnaround. Mac mentioned us flying through the night on the way over there. You can't do that on the way back. So our bodies, it'll take a few days to adjust, and we'll be real in tune to that, and making sure that that this kind of whets their appetite a little bit for what the season will hold. But we've slowly released the schedule. We haven't released it because of Freedom of Information, and other people releasing theirs. So our kids they've got some excitement to look forward to when we get back.
Coach, you spoke a little bit about rotations. Do you think there's going to be anybody that stands out that we're not used to seeing?
I think you're all going to notice some changes in some kids physically, maturity-wise. If you come over there in a little while, I think everybody will write down Jersey Wolfenbarger looks different than she has in the first 2 years. A lot of that just has to do with this is the time for her body is finally caught up. She didn't grow all year last year for the first time in her life. So she has no aches, she has no pains, she just looks different. Miriam she had a full summer. Last summer she didn't get to work out because of her knee. She looks a lot different as well. And Sailor will jump out at you. she's as fit as she's ever been, and those are her words, not mine. So I think, to the eye, some things will change. I think you'll immediately realize how quick Talia Scott is, because you've been watching Sam with the ball for a number of years, and now Sam's got somebody who can keep up with her. And then, I think the name that we all knew, Carly Keats, is a name that, because she's a junior college kid and she didn't come out from high school, doesn't maybe have the accolades or the expectation, but she's been our second leading scorer throughout the summer. Just very mature. She'll catch your eye real fast. I don't know how everybody. I used to try to predict it, how it would look, and I've been wrong so many times. I love something about every single one of them, and they did use the time very valuably this summer. But again, just the comfort of having Mac 43 in the book out there. I showed her the practice schedule at breakfast, and she says, "Gotcha, coach." Didn't need explaining. Didn't she got it? She understands it. So a lot of really, really cool pieces, and we got some time to figure out how to make them into a puzzle, for sure. But I think those people will jump out at you to the eye if you come watch practice.
Yeah. How's Sasha doing?
Great. I'm not mentioning her very much because I want y'all to see it for the first time. But if she continues to do what she's been doing, her story ends great. She's been such a great story already, and if it can just keep going, she's been phenomenal. She worked with us for about 3 weeks during the summer. During the end of the school year, and it's carried all the way through the summer. Both ends of the floor. You would not, if you dropped somebody into practice today and said, pick out the kid who didn't play last year, I guarantee you nobody would pick 13.
I'm assuming the whole family's coming to Europe?
My whole family?
Yeah.
My young family is Bowen and Barrett will make the trip. Abby just had a baby. So MZ, the grandbaby, is only 3 months old, so they're not going to make the trip. And Butch, her husband, they won't make it. And Alec, my oldest son, is getting ready to start his senior year here, and we are not nearly cool enough for him to hang out with. I don't care what part of the world we're going to. So he'll stick back and work and make money and get ready for school. But the young boys, based on the number of trips Amazon has made to our front door in the last 3 weeks, they will be gadgeted and packed out. If there's a travel tip that's been out there, we got it. We'll be able to review the product for you because JC's got it. They've got foot rests and head rests and sleeping aids and play toys, and it'll be interesting to see how they travel.
That's fully loaded.
Those what are they called, fires? Yeah, they each have individual fires that don't have anything overlapping. So whatever's on Barrett's, on Bowen's is different so that they can swap. Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, back in the old days, kids would come up here to go to school in August at some point.
Yeah.
You've had, I guess most of these kids up here during the summer and stuff. Just talk about how the summer these days is able to make everybody assimilate better.
You're going to date us a little bit, but yeah, and because they changed the rule to where you can do it, doesn't necessarily mean I like to do it. We already play over both semesters. We miss all the cool holidays as a basketball player, so I don't require a whole lot during the summer. But the kids, it's funny how they made this home. Like, they don't want to go home as much as they used to. Part of that's got to do with the way that they get their checks if they're here, and the way they live. They don't live in the dorms. They live in apartments nicer than anything I lived in until I was in my 30s. So life is better. So as a result, we kind of try to probably spread everything out a little bit more, Doug. I think we still probably get the same amount accomplished that we used to back in Coach Blair's days when we were running the Blair Mile and, all the things that we did when we first got back from August. I just think they're stretched out and they're not as compact. I think it tends to as well. I think it ingrains the kids to our community. We've done as many community service hours this summer as we did all year last year. We spent almost the entire team spent the whole day over in Tahlequah the other day on a community service project. So it's allowed us to do a lot more off the court things that I think are just as meaningful as some of the stuff that we do on the court. But I do think the kids get better faster. I look at their skill levels and some of the things that they're working out with their workout coaches and the extra work they're putting in with our coaches and Tyler. I think it gets the kids to their peak a little earlier maybe than 15 years ago when people would peak at 25 or 26 or 27. I think we're starting to see that now. So I enjoy it the way it is because they're around a lot. But I think there's goods with the way it used to be because they were completely away from you. You couldn't see them. And there was always like little pockets of excitement. Now it's just kind of a steady, even flow. Dropped a Pearl Jam song on you there. You're welcome.
Just kind of with the growth of the women's game here, and especially after the Final Four this past year, and Dorita's been on those committees, just seeing her get this prestigious honor of being the chair for 24-25. What's that like?
There's not, the committee all works hard, but Dorita watched everybody's games. She would text me, "Are you watching this game?" "No, Dorita, it's 2 o'clock, I'm asleep." "Oh, so I didn't even realize I'm watching the West Coast game. Oh, it's unbelievable." I said, "Well, I'm going to be watching it now." It's so deserving. She takes it very, very seriously. You think I'm a numbers person? She's numbers people. So I'm glad that the committee recognized, the rest of the committee recognized her hard work for that, and it's great for our game. You mentioned the eyes. You know, all the numbers have been out all summer long. The Final Four games were the 5th most watched games in all of sports last year. All of sports. That's NBA Finals, that's World Series, that's football games, that's Monday night. It was so many eyes on our game right now. So to capture all that and continue it into this year, I think there's a lot of great preseason games. There were some great made-for-TV games, tournaments, one-off events. I think the ACC SEC Challenge, amazing matching teams up, the top teams, you know, LSU and Virginia Tech going at it, and just right down the line. I guarantee you when the preseason polls come out, if you match up the matchups, they're pretty close. There's not going to be very many that are more than 1 or 2 teams off. So I think there's a lot of intentionality with what's going on with our game. ESPN spoke at the SEC tournament about it. They're pouring more effort, more money than ever before into capturing it. I think we've got so many interesting stories to cover, not only here but nationwide. So I hope we're ready for it. And I think that's what all us coaches have been talking about. Let's be ready. The eyes are on us, so let's give them something to look for, not the negative stuff, not start digging in there. Let's give them something positive to talk about, and good games, good people playing good people, good competition, well executed, and keep the game about the game. There's going to be enough off the court stuff. We've got some of that going on too, which is a sign. It's a good sign. You know, when we're talking about, yeah, sure, great, you know, all of that stuff, when it's not just all, you know, it feels like it's added on. It was top story. It was it was the lead story on a number of things. So, you know, there's always going to be haters that come out and say stuff about the WNBA or women's basketball, and I'm here for it because they're welcome to come into practice anytime and try to get a little something with some of those kids. It would be fun to see some of that happen, I think. But you're right, the game is at an all-time high, and I think we have to know that it is and be ready to continue it being a positive trajectory. All right, y'all. Thank you.